Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am your girl, Molinda Jae, and I'm here to talk about and do a review, like a commentary of the Harry and Meghan limited docuseries on Netflix. So there is a lot to unpack, so just sit back, relax, and let's go ahead and get into it. Now, within this documentary, there's been 6 episodes. I thought it was three, but after I finished the third one like 2 weeks ago, I was like, and it said there's more episodes coming. I was like, okay, I'm for it. Let's go. I'm waiting for something new to watch. So with the first episode, they did say that all interviews are done before August 2022, and that the royal family did decline to comment, on any other topics that was discussed or just participating as a whole within this documentary. So, shoo. Now, with the first episode, not episode, I call it the beginning because they didn't name their episodes. It was just more like episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. But I named them. Okay, so the first one that I named of the first episode is the beginning, because what was discussed within this with this episode was Harry talking about his childhood and being in the public eye, and how it impacted him mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, due to him and the status and his background and pedigree. And also, while after he discussed his upbringing, that's when the beginning of the romance happened between him and Meghan. Now, overall, what I thought about the first episode, okay, one of the earrings fell out. First things first is that oh, let me put my earring back on, y'all. Okay, yeah. One of the things that I took away from the first episode was that it was really a true love story, and you hear less of that nowadays. You can tell the authenticity between both of them, and I think it is a shame for us, especially for the haters out there, because throughout the whole entire series, it just seems like every step that they have taken, whether it was good and majority good, it just always a flip of a switch, like, oh, she's a diva, oh, she is this, oh, she is that. And I'm like, are y'all talking about yourselves at this point? And again, it just goes back on how trickery the media can get when it comes to their journalism, and how they want to view a person. Of course, you get more clicks and views with a person doing bad things, bad behavior, than when the person is doing good humanitarian stuff. And it's just like, why do we holler about we want more positivity in the air, but we still like to absorb the negative? I mean, it's okay to be gossipy for a short period of time, but don't let it over consume you to where you can't find yourself out of it. Okay, so again, I thought it was a true love story because they were very hush hush in the beginning of their romance, of course, before the tabloids, got a hold of it. So with Harry explaining his childhood being in the public eye because he is a royal, he is the spare to the heir, as well as him having to mourn and grieve differently than the average Joe because of his mother passing, and how he had to keep himself together. He could not show emotion whatsoever. And that's with all of the royal family, but especially when you're a child and you're and a matriarchal figure has passed away and you're in the public eye, or just a parent, a parental figure in general, a major a person that plays a major role in your life has passed away and you're living in the public eye, you do have that certain saying in the back of your head, like, I'm not going to let anyone see me sweat, or don't let anyone see your sweat, no crying, no emotions, the list goes on. And then of course, when it comes to men and boys and how they grieve or how they show emotion, it's always been programmed for the longest of, you can't show emotions, you can't let them sweat, boys are not meant to cry, they're not supposed to cry, and blah blah blah, the list goes on. And then that leads to some thoughts and some actions where it could lead to the detriment of a person, which is taking their own life, because they, anytime they feel like they want to express their emotions and they can't, and they have to keep bottling that stuff in, it just leads to a whole downward spiral. Hence, that is possibly what happened. And thus reports are saying with, DJ Twitch, and the list goes on with that. That's a whole separate video in itself. But just as a youngin for Harry in general, having to grieve and grow up at the same time after the passing of his mother, of course, that could be the end all or be all, or have you being the person that you are meant to be. Okay, so since the British tabloids have slandered him for the longest with his acts and behavior and how he cannot talk to the paparazzi, and they shortened the paparazzi word for pap, so I'm probably going to use that. So with him, with the reports showing us of him acting out and getting a hold of the paparazzi, aka the paps out there, telling him to get out of his face so he can continue on with his day-to-day activities, that just led him to go somewhere else where there's not going to be any to none of the tabloids showing up. So what place to go? The motherland, Africa. So he went to South Africa, or just Africa in general, where he went and basically lived. That was basically his second home, with the local people, the local tribe, getting to know their culture, even speaking the native language in that culture. And also he developed relationships with the prince, one of the princes in Africa at the time, and still is best friends with him to this day. So you can only imagine, like, little old Harry going over to Africa and live in it, really shaped on how he is as a man. Because let's be honest, if the royal family, if the monarchy was to be abolished now, who would be better off by themselves? And more likely it will be Harry and Meghan, because especially Harry, because he has hung out, he has expanded his horizons to where, if the day-to-day things like electricity or other things have run out or is going in a rollout type of spin, he's the best one to go to for the survival kit. If you want a person that will help you navigate and survive the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day necessities that we all take advantage of every day, I would want to lean over to Harry. Okay, let's be honest. So That's where, and also that is where his mother had went too. So he's also paying homage to what she was doing when she was living, which was going to Africa, doing some humanitarian work. Of course, getting to know the culture and expanding their horizons other than the privileged lifestyle that they once had, which is with the royal family. And it's also a great place. I'm pretty sure it's a great place to recalibrate too, because you're getting in touch with oneness with Mother Nature herself. So, of course, that's when it segued on to the beginning of the romance, because Meghan, she was on vacation after filming from her Suits show. And y'all, I don't keep up with these folks like that, okay? But there's something, but each time I do report on them, I figure out what can we learn out of the situation that these folks are in, so we can continue to be our best selves within the collective, right? So she met Harry by a mutual friend, I want to say, and I believe it was a blind date, so to speak, as well, because Meghan, I'm gonna say she knew of him but didn't know him, like keeping an eye on him, because when us Americans, we don't for some people like me, we don't keep up with everybody like that. We just know of them but not the real them. So with Meghan, yeah, I'm pretty sure she knew of him to a certain degree, but not the Harry that everybody perceives, and the list goes on. But with the beginning of their romance, they met in July of 2016, 15, one of those years, at a little restaurant, and they was explaining that Harry was late the first time, but after the second date, that's when Meghan was late. So, but at the same time, Harry didn't mind with Meghan being late because he was already attracted to her. He already liked her. And so, of course, they continue on their FaceTiming, and they're connecting with each other. And of course, it's a long distance relationship because he's in the UK and she's in Vancouver, Canada, filming for the show, as well as that's where she was living at the time. And however, with her going on the girls trip with her girlfriends, that's when they were set up by probably some mutual friends on a blind date. And of course, it was like instant. It was like magnetic. They were two peas in a pod, to say the least, because like I said, they kept up with each other, FaceTiming, video chat, texting. And I have to give them props. They kept the low profile for as long as they could before the news got a hold of it. Because once the news hits, once the tabloids get it, everything is out and about. So what I thought about the first episode so far was it was giving us a glimpse of how everything started between both of them. Of course, it started with Harry and his background, as well as the little inklings of their romance between each other. And that is something that we need to keep in mind as we develop relationships with each other, especially when it comes to romantic relationships that could lead to marriage. Sometimes it's just best to keep out of the limelight, out of social media, because you never know who is watching on the wayside that wants to be in your shoes, to where they want to low-key want to divide the union between you and the individual and how the person. But as the old saying goes, how you get them is how you lose them. hence TJ Holmes and Amy Robach. But that's a whole nother subject in itself. Go check out my video on that one. But yeah, that's what I got from the first episode. The beginning of the beginning of it's the beginning of how love should be. There we go. That's how I put it. Especially when you're in the public eye like they are. But other than that, that is my thoughts for the first episode. Of course, feel free to leave your comments down below on what you think about the first episode if you watched it. Of course, it's been trending all over on Twitter ever since it came out. I cannot wait until the book come out, y'all. Whenever the book come out, I'm be ready, eyes wide open, ready to get a copy of that. So it was just getting this documentary was just a little appetizer for us before we get that book. Because again, as you present yourself, as you want to tell your story, you either do it by a documentary or you write a book. And what person don't know you is yourself when it comes to telling your story. You don't want everybody else to tell your story. You want yourself as a person to tell your truth and your story. All right? Because at the end of the day, it's your life, right? Okay. But other than that, that's what I have for the first episode. Stay tuned for the second commentary / review of the second episode, and I'll see you then.